Hi, I'm Sarah and I want to talk to you today about when to go into the hospital when you're in labour. And this is always a question that comes up at the start of class when we're setting agenda, and the couples always want to know, when will I go into hospital? I'd love to be able to give you a definitive answer and say this is when you go in, but unfortunately there's no one answer that fits all. So what we're going to talk about today is the signs of labour and when is the best time for you to go into the hospital. Now I'm sure you're aware that it's best to stay at home as long as possible in the early stages of labour. And this is backed up by research, and it's for two reasons. The first reason is that the longer a woman is in hospital, the more likely she is to have intervention. And the second reason is that the longer she's in hospital, the more likely she is to end up with a caesarean section. And that's under normal circumstances. And unfortunately today, nothing is normal. We're into an unknown realm at the moment. But what is happening in the hospital is that they're trying to decrease footfall. So they want the women in the hospital for as short a time as possible, and they want the partners in for as short a time as possible as well. So they're not letting the partners in when the woman comes in to be assessed to see if she's in labour or not. And labour is a time when we want to have our partners with us for support. So we want to maximise that time that we have with our partners and to minimise the time that we're without our partners. So this is another reason why we want to stay at home as long as is possible, as long as the woman is comfortable to stay at home. And that's the important thing, that the woman is the person who decides when she wants to go into the hospital, when she's not comfortable to stay at home any longer. Now what normally comes up in class at this stage is, what if I have a fast labour? And yes, fast labours do happen, but they are rare. And for first time mums, they are extremely rare. So I really don't think it's good or it's a positive thing to focus on that at the moment. I think that we should look at the signs of labour and when most people would be going into the hospital. So what are the signs of labour? So I'm going to give you 20 seconds just to think about them for yourself. So think about, what will you be on the lookout for the start of your labour? Okay, so what couples normally come up with is the show, contractions or pains coming and going. What also can be a sign of labour is that the woman starts to feel nauseous. She can vomit and she can have diarrhoea. And believe it or not, they're all positive signs. It's just nature's way of clearing everything out of the way for the baby. The other things that she may be aware of would be that she's not sleeping very well. She feels very emotional, or she just feels different. They're not terribly tangible things though. So the things that are tangible are the show. So the show, and now I know that as you become more pregnant you get more and more mucus, but the show is a little bit different. It's about the size of a €2 coin normally. It's clear mucus and it's got blood streaking through it. Now it's not like period-like blood because it's mucousy. Okay, so it's really important to know that bleeding is never normal in pregnancy. So it's a reason to go into the hospital. But the show is mucousy, alright, so it's different to your period, like bleeding. And some women will get that maybe a week before labour starts, and some it might be just a couple of days. It's not a sign to go into the hospital, but it is a sign that things are starting, so it's a really positive sign. The other tangible one then is the contractions. So initially the woman might be thinking, I haven't had that pain in a while, that period-like pain that you haven't had for about 9 months. You start to feel that, or the woman might feel some pain in her lower back that's coming and going, or she may have pain in her thighs that's coming and going. Okay, so in the early stages, that's coming and going. It's not in a good rhythm yet. All right. So this is what we call the latent phase of labour. Now we divide up labour into 3 parts, as you know: the first stage, second stage, and the third stage. But in the hospital, they further divide it into 3 stages: the latent phase, established phase, and transitional phase. Okay, so the latent phase is characterised by contractions coming and going. They're not really strong, and they're not terribly long. But when they get into the 5-1-1 rhythm, which I'll talk about now in a minute, is when the woman may decide she wants to go into the hospital. She may be 3 centimetres. When her contractions are coming every 5 minutes, they're lasting 1 minute, and they're in that pattern for 1 hour. She may be 3 centimetres, okay? So the timing is that she has a contraction, so it's starting to build, and that's when the timing starts. So when she starts to feel the contraction, it's building, and then it peaks and it starts to go away. Okay, so now we're coming up to about 1 minute long and it's gone. And now her body, she is, and her baby are recovering from that contraction. And then 4 minutes later, the next one starts. So that's the timing of the 5. The contraction is 1 minute, and then there's a 4 minute gap. So that's the 5. It's 1 minute long contraction, and it's in that pattern for 1 hour. Then the woman may be 3 centimeters. This is a guideline though, okay? So we have the 5-1-1 guideline. But if the woman is here before that, and her contraction is coming every 7 minutes, let's say, but she's in distress, she can call the hospital, okay, and that might give her some relieve her anxiety a bit. Or she can go in. You know, it's not a rule that she has to apply. If she's in distress, it's important that we get her out of distress, okay? On the other side of it, if she's here now and her contractions are coming every 4 minutes and maybe lasting 70 seconds, if she's comfortable, it's absolutely fine for her to stay at home. It's the woman that decides when to go into the hospital, and we need to trust her, that she knows when to go in. She will take into account how far she has to travel and how much traffic there is. Not an awful lot at the moment, but she will take all of that into account, and she will go into the hospital when it's right for her. So I just want to show you, just with intensity. The intensity is important as a guideline of when to go in. Because some women's contractions get into a strong rhythm quickly, or some take longer. It's all very individual. But I just want to show you what a strong contraction will look like when the woman is really seriously concentrating to deal with it. So when a woman is having a contraction, she'll automatically lean forward, because she knows that when she's leaning forward, her uterus is working most efficiently. Okay, we know this instinctively. She may rock, okay, and she may make a sound. But really importantly, she's not aware of what's going on around her. Her partner may be talking to her and she does not hear him or her. So she's dealing with the contraction. And then it starts to go away and she starts to come back. And she may look at her partner and say, "Were you saying something to me?" That contraction has been so intense that she has had to go internally to deal with it. And that is when the contraction is really doing good work. And obviously we want them to get more intense so that the cervix opens further. So staying at home as long as possible is going to maximise the time that you're relaxed in your own home setting. You're going to be producing oxytocin. And Moira has talked about the hormones of labour and birth in another of these video clips, so I'd encourage you to look at that so you can maximise the oxytocin that you're producing. And another clip that we're doing is, what you'll do while you're at home, while you're waiting to go into the hospital and preparing yourself to go in. So thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you again shortly. Thank you.